Kman going up against Dplus KIA, who were the #1 team favored to win the entire Asia Invitational. However, ShowMaker is going to try to put a stop to Diable's role if he can get online with this LeBlanc. But I want to preface that one of the times that ShowMaker did lock in this LeBlanc against Weibo Gaming, he kind of got bodied by Siwoo, so he's got to step up to the plate this time around.
A huge game for ShowMaker. This is really the lane that you're looking at for DK to step up and take over a lot of this game. ShowMaker is, considered a significantly higher profile name than someone like VicLa, especially with the performances we've seen throughout this year. He will get what a lot of people consider to be kind of a signature champion throughout his career with the LeBlanc. It's not worked at this tournament so far, but if anyone's going to be able to step up to the plate here, it is definitely ShowMaker. The question now is, what do they want to try and take away? Of course, you gotta take away Lissandra. Basically completely deletes the champion, but a lot of these other safer picks, I imagine, would likely go. It's the Annie as that pair up with Wukong. We've seen a lower priority on Annie at this tournament than I anticipated, but no real surprises on the bans there from DK.
Common pattern, Kman, in both of those champions being banned away by Dplus KIA. They have point-and-click stuns because LeBlanc is a very slippery champion. But if you want to go down the route of champions that could be really powerful in locking down a slippery champion like LeBlanc, now's hard. Point-and-click suppression.
We've already seen it twice at this tournament, and so we definitely have the chance of seeing it again here from VicLa. I believe ShowMaker was the first to bring it out on day #1, so we'll be getting a taste of his own medicine, but it's some support bans out on the other side. Playmakers are the priority here to take away from BeryL, getting him off of those champions that have a ton of priority, like the Rakan, like the Nico, forcing him onto something that perhaps has to play a little bit more in line. We know that BeryL sometimes can want to change the game up a little bit too much in terms of the way that he plays the map. I think getting rid of a lot of these more active threats makes sense, but at this point, I think you have to pick AD carry. If you don't use support for R5, that would be a little crazy, and we are going to see the Yunara a lot.
All right, so Yunara for aiming. That still opens up the field for BeryL to be able to get a chance to look at the entire 5-man assembled composition for BFX before he gets his support counter pick of choice into Braum. Obviously, there's a lot of options when you want to look at things that you can take advantage of, something like a Braum if you want to go for a pure range matchup. Now, hear me out, Kman. I don't think you would want to swap the Trundle around, but Trundle historically has been a pretty gnarly counter pick into the Braum, but that would only make sense if you wanted to pick something else for Lucid, which I don't think is going to be the case, as BFX go for their, I'm assuming, I guess this could be a top lane pick for clear with the Galio into the Rumble, but it could also be for VicLa.
This makes a lot of sense for VicLa here. Love the Galio into LeBlanc matchup for lane because you can just taunt her out of a lot of her damage if you time it right. So really like that for VicLa. Puts him on something that can roam. He can be much more of a team player. We've seen him struggle to carry in terms of the damage he's able to output, but we're getting some spice on the top side of the map. The answer to the Rumble is the Camille in this matchup. Clear's had a really good tournament in comparison to what the kind of form he was in coming in to ASI, and I think this is really him throwing the gauntlet down and saying, Siwoo, you're known for your late games. You're maybe not so much known for your laning. We can try and take advantage of that here.
And this is not technically Worlds, but it's starting to feel like Worlds because in past years, the Galio-Camille composition combo has always been a historic nice duo to be able to synergize and set up Hextech Ultimatum into Hero's Entrance. Another way to just pair alongside the Wukong with the AoE CC, but Dplus KIA look at that entire composition and say, you know what, Amy, I'm just going to be your pocket kitten. I'm going to give you the Lulu special and just try and help you deal with a lot of these diving threats coming out of BFX's lineup.
That's the scary thing, right? Is DK have drafted full scaling in terms of how their comp ends up going. They want to protect and play around this Yunara as much as possible. You have things that can help it with the Rumble and the LeBlanc in terms of damage in the late game, but when you draft this Yunara with the Lulu on the bottom side, you are kind of signaling that you want to play for these team fights, and there's just so much dive, so much engage on the other side. It's going to be interesting to see how FEARX ends up playing the early game. I think there is a real shot that we see a lot of action in the bot lane very early on, and you got to watch out for that Galio-Camille duo alongside the Wukong that can basically make any play on the map they want happen.
Definitely excited to see how fast BNK decide to play this game out, because obviously Camille would like to play for a couple items, and each of those power spikes just makes her a more threatening force to deal with, especially in the side lane as she scales up and up. But if you get proactive early on, start teleporting for those early flanks, and you just point and click, lock down with the Hextech Ultimatum, and you just ensure that aiming never gets going, I don't mind that as a game plan either for BFX.
And that's the thing, is like you can expend Camille Teleport to do that, or you can just have Galio roam, or you can send Wukong with the Braum early, you know, passive stacks on him to seal the deal there. There are so many ways to make this Yunara's life so difficult in the early game. It's up to BFX though to actually use those. They have a really good setup to be able to generate tempo and advantages on the map here, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to execution. You don't really want to go neutral with this Dplus KIA team going in second seed, but still overall are pretty solid. These are two big favorites, and we're finally getting into game.
Almost! Okay! Looks like the hardware issues have subsided for now. It's time to jump on to Summoner's Rift for Game 1 between BFX and Dplus KIA. No, there's no gyos, and there's no cheers. But, you know, I still like the grandiose effect of being able to set off the proper intro into this series. We get an early ward onto the Raptor pit for BFX's side. ShowMaker might be able to have a chance to put some aggressive vision of his own as VicLa is trying to help defuse it, but gets planted down. And yeah, pretty standard opening so far on both teams.
Nothing crazy here. Not that I would have expected anything crazy from the level 1s of either of these two teams. It would be quite foolish for one of them to take a major fight and throw the game here. But really the question is, where are these junglers going to look to pressure early? And how early are they willing to do it? We actually see opposite side starts here coming in from Lucid and from Raptor. That could matter a lot, especially with Lucid pathing down to the bot side. It could actually open the door for them to try and play towards this, you know, this Yunara a little bit earlier. I think I would have expected it maybe the other way around, with Raptor potentially trying to take advantage of the Lucian Braum power, but certainly we'll see how this ends up going down.
It is always difficult to try and call your Wukong over because you are depending heavily on your laners to set up ganks for you, because all you bring is damage and some gap closing potential, but until you're level 6, you don't have any hard CC in your own kit. So I imagine that Raptor, if he just wants to play for the full clear on this first rotation, and then off of a component power spike, he can be really grateful if she gets a little bit more time on the side lane. And while Trinity Force spikes are going to be really strong for Clear and Raptor, like you mentioned here, that the only threat that you're scared about facing later on as the game scales up is just this Yunara and Lulu combo, because the more gold that Lulu gets and the more levels that Lulu gets, then that just means aiming becomes even more terrifying to deal with in those late game team fights if you do not have the necessary lockdown. But I would like to imagine that BFX are going to have the tools necessary to be able to pull it off. So it just comes down to how disciplined they are in first 15 minutes of the game in dealing with Dplus KIA while they are looking for their own plays.
Yeah, I think it's really just about managing your threat level, because you can't really allow any of the key threats for DK to get out of control. This game can get really hard really fast for BFX, but I do think they actually have some pretty decent individual lane setups if you just look at their matchups, especially once they start, you know, getting those backs in, get those items rolling, get those level ups happening. I think, you know, theoretically you should be feeling pretty comfortable at taking some early fights individually. If you can play off of that as Wukong in particular, you can open up the map a lot more than maybe you would expect in a game like this. It's all really just about making sure that your laners are living up to their own promises that you drafted for here.
Yeah. First potential look is in the mid lane. VicLa going in onto ShowMaker, but Lucid is here just to ward him off. And as Raptor was about to walk up and try and follow up on the play, realizing that with Trundle there is no play to be had.
Yeah, you know, just a little hello, high five down the stretch here in the mid lane of the two junglers, both just getting their recalls off. Not really too much loss for anybody. ShowMaker does get his back stopped. That's relatively important for overall tempo here for the LeBlanc. You definitely didn't really want to be even or behind here against VicLa's Galio, because he can just control the wave a lot easier. So going to be interesting to see how this ends up breaking down for ShowMaker, but still a pretty neutral situation, all things considered. The breakpoints are really going to come in about 40 seconds when that dragon spawns, and most importantly in about 3 minutes when the grubs are up.
Yeah, you can see that VicLa is attempting to cancel the base off of ShowMaker. Doesn't look like his Winds of War would have been in range. So ShowMaker manages to get a decent base. Not sure if he was able to purchase anything. Okay, it's just an amplifying tone. Not the best base in the world, but he at least did force VicLa to TP earlier on in the laning phase as well. So at least ShowMaker might be able to have a moment to jail VicLa and prevent him from getting a base off, which he's not able to do so. But now Wave is set up on his side of the map. I'm curious if Lucid can swing around mid off of this timer and catch VicLa and at least try to burn a flash. If not, go for a kill.
I certainly think it's possible. You want to play aggressive into the Galio to make sure that he can't be making plays once he gets 6 around the rest of the map. If you can burn that flash early, it does take away at least a bit of his potential. The real question now is just how aggressive do you want to play it? I know we keep reiterating it, but Lucid right now full clearing on the Trundle. I think that there is an opportunity for him to really step up and maybe start to pressure out some of these lanes. I think BFX is doing a great job of holding this wave down on the bottom side, really kind of negates BeryL's impact here on the Lulu, and you can already see that, you know, gold neutral in the bot lane is going to be positive for DK for now, but with mid laners hitting level 6, we could be seeing action a lot sooner.
Oh. Well, I saw that ShowMaker, I think, used 2 chains there, but the second chain hit a minion. Not an ideal scenario for the LeBlanc, although he still is able to chunk out VicLa a decent amount, but might have missed an opportunity to at least threaten for lethal in the next rotation of spells there. So we saw Lucid did take a base after the Gromp, comes back out, immediately buses over to the bottom side of the river. Might challenge Raptor here, but Raptor has Kellin in his back pocket.
He should be just fine here. VicLa finally hitting level 6. He's down a considerable amount of CS as we get to a potential fight here over the bottom crab. Would be crazy to go for this. Looks like DK just want to disengage this. Definitely the right call for DK. ShowMaker going aggressive.
Oh, but he's able to distortion back to his original spot. VicLa now below 300 HP.
Raptor's here.
Still has about 320 on his side. VicLa will still survive, not having to burn the flash anytime soon. Kellin trying to get aggressive onto BeryL's Lulu right now.
This is huge for ShowMaker. I mean, he has been really crushing this laning phase. I don't think this is easy for LeBlanc, but he certainly feels much more comfortable. You know, forcing that early back coming out from the Galio was huge because he could get that lane pressure. And now look at the item differential and the CS differential here with ShowMaker versus VicLa. This matchup that's supposed to be Galio favored is very much not going that way. Dragon is up. Grubs are spawning in 45 seconds. Having that advantage in the mid lane is massive for DK here.
Yeah, even though that Galio does have a nice amount of resistances into this lane, you can tell that with the culling.
Oh, aiming.
Takes out aiming's full health bar. It was a force of the summoner heal spell from BeryL, and aiming, no access to the barrier, means that he is forced to base. BeryL getting potentially dove. Diable is going to stop the base as aiming, forced to stop his own recall. At least throws out the W.
That's so aggressive from Diable in terms of the step up. You have no clue where Lucid is. Now see him on the bottom side of the map, so this play is safe, but fights are happening.
Raptor, you gotta bail out VicLa. He flashes to the safety of the Wukong so that Raptor doesn't have to immediately pull the trigger on the Cyclone. But Dplus KIA have an opportunity to try and push them out. Despite aiming and BeryL being super low on HP, BFX cannot continue the Dragon. And that goes the way of the Dplus KIA. It's Clear getting solo killed by Siwoo. That is first blood for the Rumble in the top lane.
That is a nightmare for Clear. This is what you draft the Camille for, dying solo on the top side of the map. It's just not good. He's down so much CS. He's given a free kill over to the Rumble. That is a big, big win for a Dplus KIA team that needs to get gold on these primary damage dealers in the later part of this game. Rumble being accelerated here could be a massive advantage for DK, and now with Grubs up, they can play for tempo on the top side.
Really huge for Dplus KIA that they're able to find that first blood advantage for the Rumble, as that first item power spike is going to get accelerated just even more quickly. However, first grub does go the way of BFX, and Lucid is going to get spotted by Clear, so this should give all the confidence to BFX to just go for all 3 grubs. Not sure if that was a missed opportunity by Dplus KIA off of the fact that they were able to get the solo kill onto Clear, but we're at the situation now where 3 grubs taken by BFX, and Dplus KIA might just have to play for dragon stacking instead.
I think it certainly felt like a call of, okay, we don't have equalizer, so maybe we don't want to go for this fight. Even if we teleport Siwoo in, of course, Clear, would be able to answer, and he does have that ultimate available. So it wouldn't exactly be the easiest fight in the world. Much easier, especially now that I see that Siwoo did not have teleport at any point, that you just send him to the bot side, you take your free kill, you give up the grubs, and you start to play for those dragons. As you mentioned before, you're a team that feels comfortable going to these late game fights anyways, with things like Unara and now Rumble being accelerated. I think DK are going to be just okay with this trade.
Sure thing. Well, Diable gonna be swapping lanes with VicLa, who's gonna take his post back up in mid lane against ShowMaker's LeBlanc. We'll see if Clear is going to get further punished by Siwoo's Rumble in the side lane, where I believe Siwoo, off of the next base that he finds, will be able to purchase that full Liandry's Torment for himself, and that's going to be a big spike. If he can get that right around the same time that second dragon spawns, then I think as BFX, you just have to concede that objective.
100%. I think that you're already looking at a game state that feels very scary if you're BFX, because you lose that dragon and all of a sudden you don't really have pressure in the mid lane, and things just kind of start getting bad really quickly. I think this is the time that we need to see something happen from Raptor to step up and really make a play with that Wukong ult, perhaps with the Galio as well. Could be mid lane here. Clear's here.
You know what? Clear says, I'm not winning my lane, so I'm going to help win yours, VicLa, as he comes in with the Hextech ultimatum, and ShowMaker, you can try and distortion all you want. You cannot escape that ultimate. VicLa getting the first kill of the game with BFX.
Love that for Clear. You need to open up the map. I was talking about the proactivity needing to come now, and I thought it was going to be from Raptor. It's from Clear on the Camille, especially getting that kill onto the Galio. I think is going to help things a lot. Him dropping in gold early was a big mistake and a big problem for the team. Now they're going to be in a much more manageable position with that extra kill.
Still about a couple minutes away from that second dragon of the game. It is the first item completed by VicLa's Galio, as Raptor does get spotted on the top side river. BeryL and aiming will be able to deflect any chance of a gank coming from the Wukong. VicLa taking up post on the bottom side of the map, as now Lucid comes to assist aiming and BeryL on their wave push so that they can get a chance to at least safely back off. Maybe a fight in the mid lane. ShowMaker gets knocked up by the first cast of the Cyclone. Here comes the second cast. ShowMaker's able to use the second cast of the Distortion to get away back to safety. As Lucid now flashing on top. Combo with the wild growth from BeryL. Nicely done. The coordination from Dplus KIA so precise and clean as BFX lose out on their star jungler.
Raptor feels like he finds a good angle onto ShowMaker, but there's nobody there to supplement any of the damage. He can do quite a bit as the Wukong himself, but certainly not enough to lock down that assassin, and eventually he's just got to run for the hills. A great flash from Lucid and a great ult from BeryL that ends up completely turning that. It's the aggression from BFX that we were looking for, but it's put in the wrong spot, and DK are happy to take advantage. 2 kills now onto the Rumble, who's already up a ridiculous 1.5k gold in this game. This could be a massive problem for BFX.
Just an overall really nice response from Dplus KIA to the first real play of the game that Raptor has attempted to make with that Cyclone. And for BFX, they're not completely out of this game, but you're starting to feel the pressure now that Dplus KIA are accelerating. They have a lot of first items online for these carries, which, as we emphasized before, Kman, that is a position where Dplus KIA are going to feel very confident in taking whatever objective they want to have.
Yeah, I don't think this game gets any easier for BFX as you continue to play this onward. I know, people talk about like Camille as a late game power spiker. I think this game gets hard for Camille if Rumble has a ton of gold, and if Yunara is able to get peeled. The Lulu makes this game very difficult, so that's why I'm so, focused and locked in on this team actively trying to fight over some of these objectives. You can't just allow the game to get out of your hands here. They're making a play on Siwoo here, but do they have the damage?
Maybe. Flash from Kellin at least guaranteed the proc of his passive for the stun, but it just gets Siwoo's flash out just so that the Rumble can survive. Or...
Yeah, I thought Clear was going to get dove here. Certainly thought that was coming in. It should just be Dragon here started up for DK. I imagine they're going to be able to take full control of the bottom side here. So we see a fight on the top side.
Not quite from VicLa, as he's not able to close the distance there. Also, my mistake, Siwoo did not even flash. I thought I saw a dash of some sort out of him, but nah, he just sped away with the empowered scrap shield movement speed boost, and unfortunate that Diable and Kellin not able to really burn anything off of that Rumble, as the teleport is coming in just to be able to assist on the bottom side of the map here with Raptor and crew. Dplus KIA yet to start up the second dragon of the game.
Definitely feels weird to delay this. Obviously, you're a little bit scared of the way that this fight ends up going, but your setup is okay around the area. You know that Clear is going to be on the top side, would have to burn the teleport to get here. Just want to go for that reset and perhaps get back out on the map. For now, this opens up the door for BFX to regain control in the area, which is definitely something that I think they are going to be happy to have with all the vision coverage. See how much they even want to try and contest this rather than try and get priority on the waves elsewhere.
Yeah, at least for BFX's case, Diable's culling is about to come back off cooldown, so he'll have another opportunity to try and at least force mid prio, but it's not going to come up in time. Dplus KIA pulled the trigger on the dragon, and BFX cannot contest. They're going to turn their attention to the Rift Herald instead.
Yeah, I really like this call. I think it was actually a pretty big mistake of DK to kind of delay this until it's really easy for them to make this transition, but it is just going to be that Drake for Rift Herald trade. This is a free thing on the map that BFX is able to get despite their lack of pressure, and I think they're going to be happy to be able to pick it up. This should get some of that gold that they were looking for back into their pockets.
Yeah, at least for Dplus KIA, they might be able to pick up first brick of the game, as we saw Aiming pop the ultimate, go Transcendent, and force VicLa off the safety of that tier 1 tower in the bottom side of the map. Aiming should be able to pick it up by himself. The rest of BFX starting to group up on the top side of the map. Not sure if there is a play that they can force onto Siwoo's Rumble. He still has the flash available despite Hextech Ultimatum being available to clear.
It's really tough to lock down the Rumble without fearing for your own life in these exchanges now.
Yeah.
ShowMaker level 11 as well, so that LeBlanc damage is going to start hitting through pretty quick here. He's obviously not had the most success on it throughout this tournament, but if there is a signature ShowMaker champion, it might just be that LeBlanc, so you can never really count him out of a game like this. Dragon spawning, obviously, in under 4 minutes here, but the real question is, how much priority are we going to see this game on the Otacon? We've seen plenty of games where it's the most important thing in the world, and some where people don't care too much about it. I think both of these comps are kind of set up to potentially go for a big fight around that time.
Oh boy.
ShowMaker?
Well, ShowMaker has successfully dodged 2 Justice Punches. However, he is now behind enemy lines. Raptor going to close off his escape route, and ShowMaker just might have to... Does he have teleport? Nope, he's just going to go for and execute under the tower.
He gets it.
And at least for him, yeah, he executes it.
Yeah, honestly, best case scenario for DK is they end up taking that top tier 1. And, you know, for Diable here, he's going to have a hard time fully defending this. Aiming is just everywhere on the map right now, gathering gold in basically any situation. Lucid immediately makes his way down here. This is a second turret falling for DK, and all of a sudden Aiming, who really hasn't been involved in a lot of the action on the map here today, is up 500 gold onto Diable. The Herald is going to be dropped onto the bottom side, and it will collect at least a little bit here, but overall, a huge map swing for DK.
Yeah, it looks like Kellin threw down the ultimate, which did force Aiming to pop his own ultimate, just so that he could sidestep it with the dash, but it's an ulti for ulti trade, and now, actually, that might be my mistake.
Here we go. Lucid.
Meanwhile, we're going to collapse onto the top side of the map. VicLa comes in with the hero's entrance, massive knockup, but it's the wild growth onto Lucid that provides a knockup of their own. Aiming trying to go crazy into the backline. He gets stunned up by the concussive blows,
Raptor.
but it might not be enough. But VicLa and Raptor commit into the backline, punish Aiming for the overextension, and now ShowMaker is on the run. Lucid trying to regroup with Siwoo. Here comes the equalizer, but Raptor just dashes forward. That's the only way out of this fight. If they can find anything, it's through clear on the top side. Raptor does get dropped, but it's a trade onto Lucid's Trundle, and now Siwoo might be in trouble, but he's still holding his flash. He's trying to reposition with ShowMaker and look for an angle back onto Diable. Woohoo! The electrocute proc from the chains sends Diable to the gray screen, and VicLa's going to be the next target. It's a double kill for ShowMaker's LeBlanc.
Lot of questions about ShowMaker picking LeBlanc in this draft. I think he is showcasing maybe why we should have been a little bit more lenient on the draft pick, as he completely cleans up a fight that looked disastrous for Dplus KIA. A major mistake made by Aiming at the start of that fight, gets caught in a chain of CC, but we get to see how this starts. Lucid gets chunked very quickly with the way that this fight goes down, but look at the healing and the shielding coming in from the Lulu, from everything coming down there. At this point, though, unfortunately, Aiming in melee range with VicLa just takes the Justice Punch, gets CC chained down by Raptor, and once you lose this Yunara, all of a sudden this fight actually becomes very unwinnable for DK, and you know, all that lead that you would have been able to generate, it's just not looking all that good. Siwoo can try his best to burn down Raptor, but at the very best, it's going to trade 1-for-1, but luckily, it's enough damage to open the door for ShowMaker to get back in range here. Diable just unfortunately gets hit by the chain at the perfect length there, not respecting the damage coming out from LeBlanc, just making a pretty big positioning mistake, and VicLa would fall as well to the damage with the Rumble. Overall, I mean, it's a huge fight for DK, a huge cleanup. If that had gone south, things would have gotten scary fast.
Yeah, just a nice response from Dplus KIA to be able to adapt on the fly and realize, hey, we can't play front to back because our AD carry just died. So now we have to kind of take the fight a little bit slow and play off of our short burst cooldowns, which ShowMaker and Siwoo able to coordinate super well and making sure that it wasn't a total wipe from BFX. Now, Siwoo, however, still has flash available, but he's locked in the Hextech ultimatum. Do they have enough damage to knock him out? Cyclone, oh, he flashed into the wall. Oh, Siwoo. Tragedy in the topside river.
Oh, it's the one thing that you can't really allow to happen. A big gold injection going over to Camille of all champions. That is not what you want to do if you're DK in this scenario. And wouldn't you know it, it's right as Dragon spawns. DK are going to try and at least contest this, but they're down a man.
Oh, ShowMaker is going to be able to distortion over the wall, so he's safe behind the wall. He goes back in. He's half HP. BFX trying to burn down this dragon as safely as possible. Lucid ready to threaten for the steal. Goes in and he yoinks it away. Thanks for the leash. CYAT in the sign for Dplus KIA. Now, can they look for a re-engage? The target is Diable. Gets the knock-up down. This Lucian is under fire, but he's able to kite out, and he's got the safety of his teammates backing him up as Diable is now safe. As he dashes over the wall, he wants to pop ShowMaker once he goes out of the stasis. Trying to knock down the Magi Soul Stealer stacks. It's Kellin that picks up the shutdown bounty. Not ideal, but you know what? A kill's a kill at the end of the day.
Gold is gold right now on the map for what BFX can get, but the steal is huge. That soul point for Dplus KIA. It's not over.
Siwoo's revenge. He wants blood, and he's looking for BFX members. Lucid almost getting popped by Raptor. The redemption comes in. He gets bonked over the head. At least Siwoo is able to trade one back onto the Monkey King. And BFX and Dplus KIA definitely scrapping a lot in our first game of this upper semifinal, I should say.
I was getting a little bit worried. We had seen so much action at ASI, and this game started like a regular LCK one. Now we finally start to get the real gameplay that we came to this tournament for with the back and forth team fights. DK end up slightly out on top in terms of gold, but you know, Clear are going to have to jump his way out of here. I think the most important thing to note is, again, that they were able to get that soul point, that in 3 minutes and 40 seconds, we are going to be fighting over Dragon Soul in this game. Otacon has spawned. It's on the top side of the map. We see the pings coming down. BFX is set up well for this.
Dplus KIA are going to have to book their butts over to the top side so that they can at least try and contest some vision over on that top side river. Aiming will look to push out mid-wave as fast as possible before Diable gets a chance to step up. Looking at the item spike advantages, Clear is quite behind Siwoo as he's got 2 items plus the tier 3 boots on this Rumble. And Clear is still working towards his second item in the game, so this is going to be a difficult lane setup despite the kills and assists he's been able to pick up this game.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to note is actually look at the level differential throughout a lot of these lanes here, specifically Diable over aiming. He's 2 full levels up on aiming here on the Lucian. This is a massive difference for BFX that they could be able to fight over. That's what makes this Otacon so important, is BFX could be in a spot with already 10 more petals than DK to really take control of a lot of that XP and neutralize the gold.
Glacial Fissure onto Lucid, but there's no real follow-ups from BFX, so that's a free Braum ultimate popped for really anything burn. Kellin comes out, that gets nothing. Kman, I was told Diable was going to put on a show tonight, and I feel lied to.
I feel lied to by Diable with the performance that I'm seeing so far. We still have plenty of time for him to take over some of these fights. He's had more than his fair share of 1v9 late game performances, but he's going to kind of need it here on the Lucian as DK going to Otacon and starting it up.
Can BFX get in? Still only about a third of HP off of the Otacon. Raptor's making the long route ahead. They spot him out. They should just be able to burn this down quickly.
Zoned.
Kellin doesn't have smite on the sell book either. ShowMaker able to force Raptor out of the pit, but it's Clear going into the back line. Siwoo is able to secure the Otacon for themselves, but VicLa's going hard alongside them. Raptor into the back line with the Cyclone. ShowMaker trying to deter them off of the fight, but Diable is able to find his first kill of the game onto Lucid. He gets a double, he gets a triple! And just like that, Diable heard that we were talking mad crap about him, and he said, let me put on the carry pants right now.
Ask and you shall receive from the superstar AD carry of BNK FEARX. It's a very well played fight coming in from basically the entire team. Raptor very late to that play, but a great cyclone coming in from him in the fight. And VicLa, I think, as well, deserves a ton of credit for the way he ended up playing that on the Galio. But once again, it's the positioning mistakes that just come back to bite Dplus KIA. We're going to get the chance to lock in on essentially what happened here. Clear with the initial engage just flashes immediately on top of aiming. That burns the Lulu ultimate. You don't have that for the Trundle anymore. All of a sudden, your front line gets a lot weaker and aiming's at half health before this fight even really starts. Raptor is able to get in with the full engage here. The Cyclone is great to separate ShowMaker, and while aiming's able to jump out, VicLa lands a two-man taunt, which completely destroys the rest of the fight. Diable's damage is so perfect, and this is what we were talking about. You can't give BNK FEARX an inch because they will take a mile.
BFX, once they were able to form that death ball and they all grouped up as 5, they were able to just burst through the door that Dplus KIA had been able to hold on to for so long. At least for Dplus KIA's sake, they still have a soul point to play for. They were able to secure the Otacon, so levels are not out of proportion there on their side. Trying to push BFX out of the river, ShowMaker trying to ward off clear and hold this choke point from this Camille as Siwoo can't get in through the right side quadrant as VicLa is ready to take post and make sure that this Rumble doesn't get a free entrance.
Yeah, this is definitely a huge fight for BFX. If they can pick this up, they can win the game.
Clear's trying to hide from vision. ShowMaker gets a peek into the pit and sees that the Camille was ready to spring a trap. VicLa still on the right side trying to prevent Siwoo from getting anything done, but he can still throw down an equalizer from this range. VicLa, I guess he's waiting for the hero's entrance right on top of Clear. There he goes, on to aiming, and Diable sends it into the back line, ensuring that aiming is the first one to fall. Yeah, Siwoo picks up Kellin, but you've lost out on your AD carry, but Diable gets popped by ShowMaker's LeBlanc, and now
dead.
It's all fights for the dragon, but Raptor's gone. There's no spite for BFX, and that's Chemtech Soul secured by Lucid, and just like that, it doesn't matter if you lose aiming, you still got Siwoo and ShowMaker to be able to pick up the pieces and clean up the fight. That's the ace for Dplus KIA at 26 minutes.
They sell their entire soul for aiming once again, and this time, DK make them suffer for it. This was a fantastic turn from Dplus KIA. Siwoo is massive right now on this Rumble. He is absolutely destroying this game, and it's not just the soul that they're going to be able to get from this. They're taking the Baron as well, but we're going to get a replay of exactly how this fight broke down. This looked so good at the start from BFX. The setup is great. Kellin doing an awesome job of zoning Lucid. He has to take so much damage here. He pops ult. You get the Lulu ultimate out of it as well, and once Clear dives in and they're able to take down the AD carry, again, you feel like the fight is over because there's no ADC, but look who is left alone at the top of this disengage. It's Diable, and ShowMaker sees it. A perfect engage, a flash breakdown of that Lucian, and in the pit here, all of a sudden our jungler's alone with no damage, and he goes down. You're losing the back end of this fight because the LeBlanc is now untouched. You lose soul, you lose the fight. It's the coordination that comes back to really bite BFX, and DK capitalized to likely put themselves in the biggest game-winning position they've had.
And that's the powerful of a well-timed assassination. It just throws the coordination into complete disarray for BFX. Dplus KIA able to capitalize on that one small mishap in for BFX and being able to identify where the threats were after being able to assassinate aiming. Dplus KIA now with Chemtech Soul on their side. Baron not going to spawn for another couple of minutes as they still have it locked in for themselves. Trying to see how much they can get on the map here as Clear trying to get some gold into his pockets, threaten the top tier 2 turret, pushing alone, but Siwoo is going to give Dplus KIA an angle for them to start breaking open the base through the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, they're trying to trade back gold, but this could be a game-ending kind of push from DK. They have plenty of ways to make this happen. ShowMaker is so slippery in the mid lane. You basically have to give up your entire base, or you have to choose to fight right now. It's a really, really difficult place for BFX to be in. Clear is trying to back, but it's going to be way too late. This inhibitor is going to be gone.
DP from Clear. Oh, he's going for the deep flank. And I think ShowMaker knows he's also TPing so that they can group up as 5 members and just try to burst their way through before Clear even gets there. And he can't even get there. He knows that the fight is already losing, so he's now forced to recall. It's a wasted teleport, and he's not going to even get there in time to stop the inhibitor from falling. Dplus KIA are going to try to push for the end.
At the very least, they weren't
VicLa?
dropping like flies in that fight. VicLa's TPing!
Oh, TPing into the Nexus Tower for what, my guy? Dplus KIA now, they've already eliminated Raptor to 5-on-4. Diable's forced to pop the Mikhails early to the credit of Kellin, just making sure that he doesn't get stunned up. But the Nexus turret is gonna fall, and now it's just an open base for Dplus KIA to just smurf all over BFX and destroy one member after another. It didn't even look close in that final breach. Dplus KIA take the first game of the series.
Okay, a lot to digest. A lot happened in the last 5 minutes. The game went from it's kind of playable to it's over. There was nothing to do. A closeout here from Dplus KIA, and it all really came back to really just the fantastic capitalization that DK ends up making around that dragon. ShowMaker, we questioned the LeBlanc pick. Boy, did it pay off by the end of that game.
Holy moly, Kman. It just went from, you know what? Hang on. This is the perfect summarization of Dplus KIA, that game against BFX. Oh, dude, it's so good. It's so good. And then out of nowhere, oh no, it's Jover. We're so back. We're so back. They just see that small blip right there? That's where, even though they secured the Otacon, they lost the fight big time. And then we thought, okay, BFX finally got their composition identity locked in and synced up with everyone. Everyone understands, just group up as 5, assassinate aiming, and then profit. But then ShowMaker said, yeah, but what if I assassinated your AD carry? What about that?
That's the thing, is it's those mispositions that have cost a lot of teams at this tournament. You can't be making small mistakes, and whether you want to blame that on Diable for, you know, not being connected with the rest of his team, or you want to blame his team for basically just leaving him at the end of that fight and just kind of walking to the dragon, you know, it's kind of up to you. But ShowMaker saw an opportunity and he took it. But we got to give a ton of credit to Siwoo on the top side. What a game one from him on the Rumble. This Camille, as a reminder, was counterpicked. Like, this was the answer that they chose to put into this Rumble, and it did the exact opposite. This Rumble was so fed, and it was so ahead, and it was really hard to play out these fights with so much damage coming in so consistently.
So let's clear something up, Kman, because one of the things I heard about Siwoo coming into this tournament is that when it comes to team fights, Siwoo is amazing, but the one weakness he has is his laning phase can sometimes be exposed. This guy just took a dump on clear and he got a solo bolo on him.
Yeah, I mean, the scouting report is correct. Now, the scouting report on clear is that sometimes he can just have one of those games every once in a while. He can pick himself a Camille and just kind of do his own thing. We have definitely seen this once or twice before from BFX, but overall, this was a great game from a player that I think has kind of been undervalued for most of this year. This is another example, by the way, on the replay of Diable just stepping up a little bit too far forward. I think he either presumed his E would be off cooldown, or maybe that he just was out of range and just instantly dies to the LeBlanc, completely turning that fight back around. There were moments for BFX to be able to get themselves back in the game, and you know, it's not like the Camille was entirely useless, but at the end of the day, the two biggest champions in this game were the Rumble and the LeBlanc, and that's what ended up turning things.
This was the one fight where everything looked like BFX's chances were back on and high. And when they were able to dive deep into the backline and eliminate aiming from the fight, you think, okay, BFX, they've got it in the bag. But then everyone is split up. Everyone's trying to regroup back to the dragon, and ShowMaker identifies the one just falter in the breakdown in communication where they think, okay, yeah, everyone just go to the dragon, and then suddenly, oh, I'm dead. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And then everything just falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, it can snowball so fast when things stop going right for a lot of the, you know, these teams. And I think, unfortunately for BFX, they just had no damage control. The moment that things started to go wrong, they just kind of piled in like stormtroopers for a lot of these fights and just died over and over again. And you know, it's not how you want to play a lot of these end games. I think that there were clinical ways to play it, and I think that there were emotional ways to play it. Unfortunately, for FEARX, it really did feel like a lot of the lack of experience on this team from some of these players caught up to them, and DK didn't have that same problem. They were cool, calm, and collected in the big moments.
Looking forward for the rest of the series, we know that Dplus KIA, on paper, coming into this tournament, were favored to win the entire thing. They were definitely the strongest team that would be the expected champions of the Asia Invitational. So far, it's a good look coming into our upper semifinal. BFX, still another team that is at least another favorite to try and contest them. Trying to think about what composition identities you want to focus in on for this squad going into the second game. The ShowMaker does pick up the LeBlanc, or the MVP from his LeBlanc performance.
I think this is more than earned. You know, she was going to have a lot of supporters out there, and he played a phenomenal game, but when I think of every major play in this game, it was the LeBlanc, so definitely want to give a lot of credit there. As for, you know, BFX, what they want to do going into game number 2, you know, I think they had a pretty clear game plan in game number 1. They just didn't really execute on it. When it came down to it, they made a couple of mistakes, and they didn't play around their superstar AD carry enough. He was left alone, I think, one too many times in these fights when they really had a clear avenue to be able to pick up the victory. I think if you can get Diable more comfortable, that's the success path.
Well, we'll see if BFX can leverage Diable to better heights going into game 2, or if it will just be a sweep from Dplus KIA.